Welcome to Trojan Poetry, episode 24. Before we get started today, John wanted to give a quick reminder to everyone who's watching out there.
All right, so if you are new to the series, and maybe this is the first video you're watching, we just wanted to make sure that everybody understood we know we're not offering full explications of the poems, right? That's not our intention. We're just trying to share poems we like, maybe start a discussion, maybe show students and maybe some other people who aren't used to reading poetry how English teachers read poetry, right? We stumble through it, we get confused by it, maybe we misinterpret it, and that's okay, right? It's part of the discussion, just a way to enjoy poetry, and because a lot of people don't think that you can enjoy poetry.
It is possible. We're trying to prove it. Hopefully, we're proving it episode by episode.
Right,
that
and
it is possible.
It's funny to go back and like look at some of the other videos and think like, oh, I totally missed this, and I should have said that, and I realize this now. So maybe someday we'll do a video where we kind of go back and say, oh, thinking about this more.
Actually, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So bear with us. We know we're not, being super geniuses up here. We're just trying to.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. On that note, do you want to get started?
Yeah, all right. Mike has chosen the poem. I haven't read it, and the reason we're doing that, having one person read it, one person not, is we wanted really to show what it's like to read a poem for the first time.
Yeah.
Right, to show that maybe sense of confusion, or maybe you get it, right, so that is, people don't feel ashamed or dumb for not getting it right away.
Yeah, and we want our students to have the same experience, and anyone who loves poetry like we do, it should be a response. It should not be academic. Your first step should be response, I guess, is what I would say. Right. So. Okay, so here we go. This poem, as always, John has not seen, and I picked for today. This is by Sherman Alexie, and it's called I Would Steal Horses. I would steal horses for you, if there were any left. Give a dozen of the best to your father, the auto mechanic, in the small town where you were born, and where he will die in the dark. I am afraid of his hands, which have rebuilt more of the small parts of this world than I ever will. I would offer my sovereignty. Take every promise as your final lie, the last point before we start refusing the exact. I would wrap us both in old blankets, hold every disease tight against our skin.
Wow.
So what did you notice first?
My first thought was the horses have all disappeared, and the father is dealing with cars. So part of the reason that horses have disappeared is because of cars. The sovereignty line got me. I mean, it's like a gut punch, right? I would wrap us in old blankets, hold every disease tight against our skin. That's, I guess it starts out like a love poem, right? But then becomes so much more, and it's really intriguing. So give me some time to digest it while you talk about.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I liked about this poem when I read it is we've actually been talking with my students about literary criticism, and one angle or lens that you can take to attack a text is biographical, right? Look up things on the author, find out who they were, what their life was like. And in this case, Sherman Alexie is Native American. And so when I put those two things together and I reread the poem, I would steal horses, and you think about that idea of horses being so important to Native American culture. And then like you said, John, the fact that there are none left, it's kind of this culture that is struggling to, between the past and the present and things like that. And then those last lines really hit me where he says, I would wrap us both in old blankets, hold every disease tight against our skin. And I just thought of that, the stuff you learn in history class where the white man brought a blanket full of smallpox to the conference and was like, hey, sign away all of Massachusetts. Here's some free blankets, But then it's so weird because, like you said, it sounds like a love poem, right? He says, I would do this extreme act for you. And, horse theft back in the day was one of the worst things you could do in the Wild West. They would string you up, they would shoot you. And he's basically saying, like, I would risk my life for you. But then at the end, he wants to kill them both. By wrapping them in a blanket. It's almost like he's not worthy of this person, that he's this, I'm assuming it's a woman that he's trying to marry. And I like how you picked up on that. I hadn't really thought of that, the idea that the father's an auto mechanic. I'm assuming maybe the father's also Native American, and he's almost like, I don't want to say betraying, the tribe, or that
He's moved
sense
on,
of,
right?
yeah,
He's modernized.
He's modernized,
Right,
and Alexie is not, or he's struggling with that. So
right.
it's like, and then that would be his dowry, right? I would steal horses and give a dozen of the best to your father, like an old-fashioned dowry. I would do this for you so that I could have you. I'm scared of your dad, but then in the end, he's going to do the thing with the blankets.
Yeah.
That's what threw me, and I really wanted to get your take on those last couple lines, unless there's other things that you wanted to focus on.
The third stanza, I would offer my sovereignty, take every promise as your final lie.
Yeah, that was that's another one that.
I mean, I wonder, I started reading it as a love poem, but what if it's actually like the you that the poet is speaking to, or the speaker is speaking to, is the idea of America. Because I mean, I would offer my sovereignty, take every promise as your final lie. The last point before we start refusing the exact. I mean, that becomes so abstract, and after the whole thing with the horses and the mechanics, and then that stanza just completely goes to a different place.
Yeah, it zooms out. It's like our what was it? The Atwood poem we read earlier about the hands. It's like he's zooming in on the hands, then he zooms out to this huge idea.
Right. Every promise. Yeah, I mean, it's so contradictory, and that's one of the things I like about poetry is just how. And again, I keep using the word puzzle, but it's kind of like a maze. I tell my students it's like a maze. You get into the maze, and there's some fun in being in a maze.
Yeah.
Right, and it's fun to try to pick through and think through, and you might never solve it.
As long as there's no minotaur chasing you, trying to eat you alive, I mean, it's a good
but
time.
then at the end, that is kind of like a minotaur, right? I would wrap us both in old blankets and hold every disease. I mean,
why would you do that after you've risked your life
right.
trying to get this person to be with you, and then you're going to, it's almost, and I hadn't thought about that either, the idea of you as America. He's given up. It's like he's so cynical. We're the last two Native Americans.
Right.
We're going to do this together, and we're going to wrap ourselves up in the blankets.
Or is it that
I don't know.
the Native American and the America are going to wrap themselves together?
And try to, I don't know.
Somebody has some kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem healthy.
Yes.
At first it kind of does, but then it quickly becomes, I would offer my sovereignty, take every promise as your final lie. I mean, it's not the final lie, though. They're going to keep lying. There's going to be more lies. And it's a complete, it's
he's
like
been
a
lied
gut
to
punch.
already so many times. Your final lie, this is it.
As your final lie, but it's not. I think that implies it's not the final lie. So, wow, you've presented quite a...
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. A lot to think about. I still
prickly.
don't know all the answers, but like you said, I think that's what's great about a good poem, is it's going to keep you coming back, trying to figure it out.
Right.
So, all right, well, we have one other segment that we'd like to share with you, or one other thing, which is some books of poetry that we've been looking at and pulling from. This one is called The New Young American Poets. It is edited by Kevin Proofer, and this is one that I actually pulled the Sherman Alexie poem from, but it's a great collection, a lot of names that maybe are not as well known as they should be in terms of modern poets. So if you're looking for a great kind of grab bag of new poetry, this would be one to check out.
All right, thanks for watching. Please join the conversation in the comments on YouTube or on Twitter at Trojan Poetry DGN. Also check out our website at trojanpoetrydgn.blogspot.com.